came across this article in the Australian news network, and it is about mediation. Can it work for sexual abuse survivors? So Australia has pioneered a world first program to provide a platform for sexual abuse survivors to confront and communicate with perpetrators. So this restorative program, conducted by Melbourne's South East Centre Against Sexual Assault, SESCA for short, aims to mitigate some of the harm caused by abuse and help survivors move on with their lives. Now, according to their statistics, 1 in 5 women and 1 in 20 men have been victims of sexual abuse, and the conviction rate for both reported and unreported cases is as low as 1 in 100. So the program, they're saying, is an alternative to the justice system and to these low numbers of cases being reported. The mediation sessions take place outside of the criminal justice process, meaning that the conversations and details raised during the mediation sessions cannot be used to incriminate alleged perpetrators. So how it works is that the mediation sessions take place under strict conditions. The alleged perpetrators must acknowledge and take some responsibility prior to meeting survivors. Now, I'll put a pin right there, because I have a problem with that. What do they mean by some responsibility? So they might have a perpetrator, for instance, who sexually abused a young girl as a child. How are they taking some responsibility for that? Are they saying that the woman, or the child that is now a woman, is taking some responsibility now for that? She's not to blame. She was a child when that happened to her. The perpetrator needs to take all the responsibility for his actions. I'm a bit fed up of kind of like the soft soaping of people that do this stuff. It's their behaviour that has caused these problems, so they need to take responsibility for it. You can't have some responsibility. What is that saying to the person who's coming forward to use this mediation programme? When you're saying they have to take some responsibility, where does the rest of the responsibility lie? That is something that they need to clarify, I think, a bit more, because it is the perpetrator's responsibility, full responsibility for what has happened. That is why they're there, of course. They are the perpetrator of the act of sexual abuse. So I think that needs to be made a bit more clear. So even with, they must acknowledge some responsibility prior to the meetings. The manager, SESCA manager, Carolyn Worth, says that even then the sessions do not always go ahead. She says that she doesn't run every session that she's asked to, and that she hasn't set up this forum for somebody to be abusive. I would say, this is just my opinion, the fact that you are saying that they have to take some responsibility for their actions before having this meeting, it is setting up a forum for that person, that perpetrator, to be abusive, because that is giving them some kind of a leg to stand on. If they're going into these sessions, taking some responsibility, they then have like a bargaining chip with the perpetrator to kind of say, well, I'm responsible for this and I'm not responsible for that. So I can see where there might be a bit of a grey area there, which I'm not sure even if this is really actually something that really would help the perpetrator, or even the young person, or the one that was abused, would help them through it as well. So basically, once they've conducted their preliminary research, they deem a case appropriate for mediation, a meeting or a series of meetings between the perpetrator and the abuse survivor are held under the supervision of a trained mediator and facilitator. So they give an example of a case here. This lady, her name's been changed, Anna, was sexually abused in her bed by a male acquaintance. She reported the incident to the police but did not press charges. She says, the fact that somebody is capable of doing this scares me. For that reason, I wanted to report it to the police, just in case it had happened before, or in case it happens again, that they have a record that this person has a history of that. She then goes on to say that she felt there was no point in going through pressing charges because it was he said, she said, and she didn't want to be in a position where her character was questioned or that her words would be questioned. So here we see why, I believe, one of the reasons why survivors of abuse have a problem with going to the police, because this is what she's already thought. She wanted to go to the police. She wanted to report the incident to the police. But what has made her hesitant about not pressing charges, this is just my opinion, is what she says here. She didn't want to go to court and have her character questioned, that she didn't want to be in a position of he said, she says. And this could explain why, in their own statistics, that they have said that unreported cases, both reported and unreported cases, is likely to be as low as 1 in 100, because already Anna has this mindset of that when she goes to the police, that it's going to be a daunting experience for her. And I think that the criminal system and the police have a responsibility actually to always treat each case that comes to them with the seriousness it deserves. Now, we can't do nothing about when it goes to court. The defense for the perpetrator, obviously that is their job to try and bring the alleged victim's character down and everything, because they're trying to get their perpetrator, the person that's committed the crime, off. But I think it's a shame actually that she felt that she couldn't go, because it's like she's looking out for other people, saying that she's gone to the police and she's reporting it in case he has a history of it or it happens again, but didn't feel that it was worth the process for her to go through. She said the court process would have hurt her more, and that is the reason why she never wanted to go ahead with the charges, for that very reason. Now, with my work in Daughter Arise, I have dealt with survivors of sexual abuse who experienced sexual abuse as children. So we're talking about cases that happened quite a long time ago. And for those who had been through it, the court process was quite harrowing. Some of them were able to get the outcome they wanted. One, he had done it to her 20, 30 years before, and he had done it to other people. He got sentenced to 20 years. Others didn't get that. But for each one of them that went through it, even though at the time it felt quite harrowing, quite hard, it was emotionally stressful, emotionally distressing, they said that they don't regret going through the process. And I suppose that is as well to do with what is it you were expecting out of it. Some people just want to go through the court of having that realization of it being in court to say, yes, this has happened to me. They haven't hinged their recovery or their emotional kind of well-being on the fact whether this person who's done this abuse to them is going to get convicted or not, because they've already come to some type of realization in themselves. Others do hinge it on that, and that's where it can become disappointing. But I think at the forefront, it should always go to the police and it should always go through the system. So she said of her experience of doing this, that she wanted him to see the seriousness of what had happened to her. She says, I wanted him to fully grasp how it affected me so he could put himself in my shoes. She said that after the preliminary process, she participated in a mediated session, and she said, but there was no consent. I wanted him to understand that I was serious and honest, that I wasn't going overboard or overacting about the event because I wasn't happy with it, that I had not invited him into my bed, I had not consented to him to being touched by him. At that point, she says, he seemed to grasp it. He was noticeably upset and I think quite ashamed. Well, that's great. I'm happy that, he's realised the seriousness of his actions, I'm happy that, you know, he's finally grasped what he's done. But he should have been grasping it. This is my opinion. He should have been grasping it in the first place. Where do you cross the line and start touching children? That's my question. You know, yes, it's good that he's upset. You know, he's human. He's upset about what he's done. But I still do believe that he should have gone through the court process and been convicted, because it's a crime. It is a crime. It's good that they have this mediation forum for victims to be able to talk and to be able to, you know, come face to face with their survivors. But there's many thousands out there that can't do that. You know, and there's many thousands out there that can't go to the police and everything else. But I think at the first point, you should go to the police. It's all fair well him being upset and sorry. What's been done about his behaviour? What has been put in place to deal with his behaviour? Is he in therapy? Is he going through some kind of behavioural kind of program? Is he being watched? What is happening with him besides him just being upset? Because it is been proven and known that people who do these type of crimes rarely ever do it to one person. They are opportunists. Perpetrators, by their very nature, are opportunists. They're opportunists, and they groom their victims. It's very rare that you will find them just doing it a one-off and being ashamed. And that's why she went to the police and reported it, in case he had a history of it, or if he got flagged up for doing it again. You know, so we need to know what has happened here, not just this mediation process. I mean, what did they do? Did she give them a name? I mean, what happened? How did this all come about? You know, it's not very clear. But I think, you know, besides being upset and besides being sorry, we need to know what has been put in place to correct his behaviour, because it is sick, and we can't get around that. You know, and the fact that she was the one that pursued this course of action shows you he didn't pursue it. He didn't go to them and say, you know, I did this to this person. I want to mediate with them and say that I'm sorry or whatever, or not through this channel, but he never made no initiation of his behaviour. She has been the one, as the survivor, to have to put in all the work. She pursued this course of action. She contacted Seska. She sat there. I mean, listen to what she's saying here. She's justifying her feelings to him about what he did to her. The fact she didn't invite him into her bed, she didn't give him consent. Why should she have to say all that? I mean, it's commendable for her to do it, and I think she's very brave, but why should she have to say all that? You know? Again, it just seems to me like the ball is always in the court of the survivor. The survivor is always the one that has the blame is put on them. They have to be the one that pursue everything. They're the ones that have to put themselves out there, and it's just shown here again, you know? But I think that, you know, the perpetrator, what is this helping the perpetrator to do? Is this helping them with their behaviour? You know, she's had to do a lot here to get across what he has done to her. I agree with Dr. Bishop, who is part of the team for human rights and public health at the Monash University, who's conducting an independent evaluation of the programme. I mean, what she says here, it's important to recognise that the huge levels of energy and passion have gone into ensuring that the justice system takes sexual assault seriously. So it's slightly contentious to take them out of the system. I fully agree with her. I fully agree with her. I feel like it is letting the perpetrator get off scot-free. Now, many of you know already my story. You know, my father sexually abused me. There was evidence that he actually sexually abused me. Documented evidence of medical examinations and stuff. When I confronted him, and I'm gonna do a video separate to this about what happened when I confronted my father about what he'd done to me. He was not sorry for what he's done. Even furthermore than that, not even that he wasn't sorry, he did not even acknowledge what he did to me was wrong. This man sexually abused me for 5 years and couldn't acknowledge that. Now, at the time, he was able to get off with it because of the Crown Prosecution Service. But I agree with her that this is what the criminal justice system is for. They should be the one to put into place everything else. That shouldn't be a worry of mine. Yes, as I said, the defendant's going to have his team there to get him off and to bring the survivor down and everything else. But, you know, it is a bit contentious. I mean, what is she hoping to achieve by this? For me, if I was in that position and having to meet with my father for mediation, sorry's not going to cut it for me. And I'm going to be honest with you here. You know, I am a Christian, yes, and I'm a human being also. That's first and foremost. But you coming and saying to me, sorry for all the emotional distress, all the disorders I've had to go through and everything else is not going to cut it. So for me, it would have to go through the court system. I would want it to go through court. So I don't know what this lady is looking to achieve with her centre. I think her intentions are good, but I have a lot of questions about it, and I think that it does bring into question about as well re-traumatising the victim, and you know, because who knows what kind of feelings it might bring up for her. She might have put down on the form that, you know, she's totally fine to meet with the perpetrator, and then when she meets up with him, something might trigger her, you know. I just wonder how they're managing all this. I mean, I don't know. I think the intentions are good, but I think that at the first point of any action, it should go through the court system. And if Anna is one of these, one of many survivors, and I know many survivors think like that, that think that their character is going to be dragged under the bus by going to court, I think that the courts, the governments, whatever organisations need to do and support the survivor through going through that process. Obviously being honest with them what they might expect from the defendant's counsel and things like that, but really doing some work, maybe you know, campaigns or whatever it is, to get into the mind of people who have been through abuse that it is a crime, you know, that they should report it. I know over here, you know, there's lots of stuff going on with Operation Hydrant, you know, which is about the sexual dealing with the historical cases of abuse. I know they're putting in a lot of work with that, and I know that you know, funding and resources with all the police cuts and everything else is making it quite hard to be able to offer what people should have. But I think that at the first hand should be one of the things that is considered, getting into people who've been through this, getting into their mindset, whether it's through government TV campaigns, newspaper campaigns, whatever, that it's a crime, how it's dealt with when it comes to them, and supporting them through that process. Because I really believe that this is what Anna wanted. Anna wanted to press charges, but she has said out of her own mouth that just the thought of what she might have to go through with the character assassination has put her off. So I thought I'd share this with you, and you know, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that, you know, if mediation can work between a perpetrator and a survivor of abuse, and how that would come about. So let me know, and check out my other videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.